Hello. In the last video, I went on a long, really long rant. So I wanted to pick up where I left off. After talking about how great women are, let's see how Steve and Dr. K plan to help men with their dating issues.
And when a dude says, I'm trying to do everything right, what is the most common response that they get? Right? So like,
Try harder or like,
yeah, right? If you kind of like look at Twitter, what you'll find is people will be like, it's impossible to find a good woman. And then like men will be, let's say a dude says that, or a woman says that, it's on both sides. It's impossible to find a good man. And then people won't be like, yeah, it's impossible to find a good man. So maybe some people will be supportive. So you'll have a woman who says it's impossible to find a good man. You know, there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, like men are trash. Fine. And then a lot of people will be like, you're not trying hard enough. You're not going to the right places. We as men get that a lot more because there's a societal bias that men don't need help, right?
As with so many of these experts, they'll sometimes be truthful, but only when it pushes the proper narrative. They are correct. When men struggle with dating, they are told to suck it up, figure it out, or come on, just try harder. However, this attitude doesn't apply to just dating. When men are struggling financially, what options are available to help them? When men are struggling with psychological challenges, they're mentally a little screwed up. Where can they turn for help? And when men go out on the internet trying to figure it out because nobody else will help them, they're met with even more hostility. Their legitimate questions and inquiries are met with rude and hateful comments. You find it on X, you find it on Reddit, you find it on regular forums. Today, it's not just encouraged for women to hate men, but also for men to hate other men. Media and popular culture just absolutely push this narrative and do everything possible, everything they can to cut men off completely from any source of support or guidance. My concern with Dr. K and Steven Bartlett, the host, bringing this issue up is that they won't do anything useful with it. As I mentioned in the first video, their absolute only goal outside of getting views, is getting men to care about women again. They want to help men, but only if it leads to men marrying, supporting, and bending over backwards for ungrateful women, of which there are a lot. They want 1950s men, but they want women to remain in the modern era. These women get complete freedom from any responsibility. They can sleep with whatever man that they want, as many men as they want, without a single consequence, at least if they have their way. And when those women are finally ready to settle down after they've had their little tour, they want simpy men to be waiting for them hand and foot. Just like Joey Galloway, which I talked about on a prior video, this guy is trying to act like a role model to make men better, but the truth is, he just wants to bring men back to the plantation.
If you look at like the comparison of scholarships, male-only scholarships versus female-only scholarships, there's about $4.9 billion worth of scholarships given out in the United States from private sources. Female scholarships outside of athletics are way higher than male scholarships. So if you look at athletics, the number is way higher for men. But the really weird thing is that like 60% of people who graduate from college or in college somewhere in there are women. So the people who need more gender-based support are men, but we don't really do that. We're usually like, if a man has a problem, this is a man's problem to solve. And when a man goes out and says, I'm having trouble dating, but what people will say is men will say, work harder, try harder. You know, people will and people will really be nasty about it. They're like, do you not know how to talk to women? Stop being a creep, things like that.
While he's technically correct here, he overlooks, as he does in so much of this video, a significant amount of context. The reason there is this overwhelming amount of scholarship money for women is that society wants women to get pointless degrees. Liberal arts, psychology, business management, nursing, and social science, to name a few. These result in no job prospects or result in underpaid careers, ensuring that college loans never fully paid off. Women tout, they just love to tout how strong and empowered they are. Meanwhile, they slave under the watchful eye of bosses, often men who don't give a crap about them. Men, however, are willingly avoiding college. Men are picking trade schools, blue collar work, or jumping headfirst into entrepreneurship. Instead of spending years and years and tens of thousands of dollars on this worthless piece of paper, they put in the sweat equity and they pull themselves up completely and out of the job market, out of that rat race. They don't want to deal with it anymore. I have a female acquaintance in her 40s that earned her doctorate degree a few years ago. At the time, she told me that any man that she dates, any man, he must have at least a master's degree for her to even consider him. I told her, there are millions of men who have high paying jobs, good personalities, and are physically attractive who don't have a master's degree. Maybe they don't even have a college degree at all. I asked her, are you going to eliminate all those men just like that, just gone? She said that she had worked her butt off to get her doctorate, which, okay, she had. So she expected that any man that she dated had to prove himself that he had worked hard on his career with a piece of paper. I told her, point blank, that a man with romantic interests doesn't care one iota about her career. Not at all. If she's attractive, she has a peaceful personality, a woman could be a cashier at Walmart and it wouldn't matter to a lot of men. In fact, many men find women with higher education to be a turnoff, to be a red flag. Why? Because it indicates that they're filled with woke ideology, or they are so strong and empowered that they lack any sort of femininity.
And then the other thing that we're we're really seeing is that there is like this very, very like deep anger, entitlement. There's like this incel movement. There's this like alpha male, beta male kind of thing. And I don't know if you kind of get this, but there's like a deep sense of like anger, right? There's like in men, and I think women feel it too. This is why women are so terrified. This whole thing about, would you rather be in a forest with a bear or a man? Did you hear about this? No. So like people would ask this question on Twitter to women. It's like, would you rather be in a forest with like a bear or a man? And like women feel safer with a wild bear than they do with a man. So I think people are picking up on this like existential, and I don't know if that makes sense to you, but there's like an existential like cry coming from men, which can manifest as anger. I think we're also seeing reflections of this like in South Korea with like dropping birth rates, right? Where like men are getting really, really angry. They feel really entitled. And I think this is where it's important to understand a biological difference. And we'll get to what I think is going on.
Are most single men actually that angry and entitled? If you listen to mainstream media and dating experts such as Dr. K, the answer is a resounding yes. But we know that isn't true. If there really was an existential cry coming from all these angry and entitled men, wouldn't we see this massive, absolutely enormous reaction? Men wouldn't just be talking about their concerns, but you'd have lots of men actually doing bad things to women. If men were desperate, so desperate to date, marry, and reproduce, wouldn't they be doing anything, literally anything, to achieve these goals? In most parts of the Western world, women have absolutely nothing to worry about when it comes to men. They can walk down the streets, they can visit businesses, and they can enjoy their life with minimal safety concerns. Are there some men who behave badly towards women? Absolutely. We know that's true. Those, however, are the overwhelming minority. Women are far more likely to be harassed, assaulted, or raped by immigrant men from Africa or the Middle Eastern countries. But the media, it fails to discuss that. Hmm. Hmm. I wonder why. A complete mystery it is. There's a reason, an important reason, that they push this angry and entitled narrative. It's because they want single men to actually be angry and entitled. Who wants that? Media, government, and corporations. Think about how men who essay women or who unalive people are portrayed in traditional media. They're called radical, incels, losers, and far worse. They are then connected to toxic masculinity, weightlifting, alt right viewpoints, and men going their own way. It makes it so much easier to control men if they can shut down any conversations that go against the official narrative. We can't have men walking off the plantation, right? Also, it allows these entities to make men the scapegoats. Instead of focusing on issues with corporations and government and how to make those better for the people, they have women and men fighting one another. It's so much easier to control them that way. However, more men are becoming wise to these tactics. Instead of engaging in the never ending battle with women, they're just done with it. They're going away, they're leaving. Either that, or they're going overseas and they're finding women who are not into this indoctrinated radical ideology of feminism. That drives corporations and government crazy, absolutely crazy, because they can't easily control these men. So they use the mainstream media to berate and to shame any man who isn't willing to deal with the modern feminism. If they want to go overseas, women who just eat this narrative up with a spoon, it's like nom 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 nom, add further fuel by demanding that men kowtow to their demands. This message, however, continues to fall on deaf ears. The more desperate women are to subdue men, the less they will succeed. That's why these stories in mainstream media, at least the ones lately, are getting increasingly stupid. At this point, they're throwing something, anything, at a wall and hoping that it sticks, that it has some sort of impact. However, that ship has long since sailed, and the men that are on that ship are just done. They're finished. They will have nothing to do with women again.
So a woman does not need a man in order to pass her genes along, right? So I mean, like literally, I know it sounds weird, but like if you're a woman, you can just go to a sperm bank and you can get pregnant.
Yeah.
You can just have a child without. You can also argue that it's easier for women to find a man who is willing to impregnate them than it is for a man to find a woman willing to carry their child. But I mean, literally, we live in a society where women can just procreate if they feel like it, and men cannot. So there's a fundamental power balance there. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. So I think what we're starting to see is actually like a mass extinction event. We are seeing natural selection for a group of men who have no options.
Wow. Where do I even begin with this level of stupidity? I guess this guy completely missed his biology class. Maybe it's not necessary for a psychology degree. Where does he think the sperm comes from that's at the sperm bank? Maybe there's a magic sperm tree hidden somewhere deep in the Amazon forest where it can just be collected so that all the women can self procreate? I don't know. Tell me if you think that's the case. Seriously, you need men to provide the sperm. Come on. Anyone with half a brain knows that. So here's a question. What happens when the men stop donating to the sperm bank? Maybe men can't procreate on demand, as he talks about, but they sure as hell can stop women from doing the same thing, if you want to call it self procreation. But there's another reason why women can't procreate on demand, like Dr. K implies they can. Artificial insemination, it isn't free. A quick Google search shows me that it costs from about $500 to $2,000 per treatment, with it taking on average 3 treatments to get pregnant. Then you have the cost of a sperm donor, which also averages between $500 and $2,000. This means the average woman is spending up to $8,000 to get pregnant if she's doing it on her own. Keep in mind, however, that women getting these treatments are often the ones that are over 30, with a large percentage being over 35. There's a very, very good reason why women are told to have kids when they are younger, because that fertility window, it's a very small window, 10 or 15 years. That egg carton starts running out of eggs really quickly. And those eggs that are left, well, they're a bit old and kind of nasty. There's a very high chance of birth defects as well once you start going over 35. He also explains that a segment of men is being, oh my God, wiped out of existence because they can't procreate. What he fails to mention is that a segment of women are also being wiped out. Millions of women are being taught in school that being a mother is bad. Instead of having kids, they should focus on their careers so they can make lots and lots of money. It sounds great until they get to their 30s and realize they have nobody in their lives. They have no man, they have no kids, they have no family. Then they freak out. They get so terrified when they realize that door is about to slam shut. Then they expect men to be available for them. Good luck with that, you empowered queens. Men are not interested in being a daddy to a woman who sees them only as a last resort, a last ditch fallback plan. Let's hear the cry, oh, coming from these women when they go online and wail about how they're too old to have kids and that their life is over. That noise is far, far louder than any that men create. Meanwhile, you have men in their 50s, 60s, and even a few 70s that are having kids. If you're a wealthy older man that's taking care of yourself and kids are that important to you, then, for the right price, of course, you can find a younger woman to have them. So who really are the ones having this existential crisis? I don't think it's the men.
So I think what we're starting to see is actually like a mass extinction event. We are seeing natural selection for a group of men who have no options. Many years ago, I was a loser, and the world that we lived in necessitated my entry into third spaces. I had trouble talking to girls, but I was forced into college. When I got my first job, it was serving ice cream. I was forced to interact with girls. I was active in a summer camp where I met girls, was forced to talk to girls. So I sucked at talking to girls, but the world that I lived in was structured so that I still had to talk to girls. I had no option to retreat from interaction and painful interaction with the opposite sex.
Whoopity-doo! You had a job 20 years ago where you served ice cream to people. What do you want? An award for that? A plaque? Do you really, really think that that somehow makes you a dating expert? If you do, then let me correct your understanding. It doesn't. I dug a bit and found out that he met his now wife at a summer camp in 2003. 2003. That is 22 years ago. So 2 decades ago, this advice worked for him to find a girlfriend and eventually marry her. So now that means that it'll work for every single man today. So just get out there and talk to more girls. This pattern exists for almost all dating experts, including Joey Galloway, who was previously on this channel. They tell everyone, look at me. This thing that I did decades ago made me successful. It did. So you just need to do the same thing. Just keep trying. And then, when it doesn't work, they blame those same men for not putting in enough effort. He is doing the exact same thing that he earlier blamed other people for doing. What a freaking boomer mentality to have. If he closed his mouth and opened his ears for just a second, he would hear exactly what women are saying. They don't want men approaching them on college campuses. They don't want men approaching them at work. You shouldn't approach women at work anyways. They don't want men approaching them at the gym. They don't want men approaching them on the street. They don't want men approaching them at the bar or the nightclub. Not sure why you're there if you don't want men approaching you. They don't want men approaching them at the laundromat, at the park, or basically anywhere else where men and women might come into contact with one another. Dr. K's advice to just talk to girls will get you ignored. It'll get you shamed, harassed, maybe even having the police called on you. However, if you are blessed with conventionally good looks, you have nice hair, which I don't, you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else at all. You don't even need to open your mouth. You know why? Because the ladies will do it for you. They'll open their mouth for you, if you get my drift. Watching too much of this video rots your brain badly, so I'm going to stop here. I've had all the stupidity I can handle for one day and for one video. Men are crying because they can't get sex and procreate. Women, however, can self-procreate without men. And men, you just need to talk to girls to get a girlfriend. Black is white, up is down, women are blameless. I'll keep chipping away at this overall longer clip because I want you all to see where he goes with this nonsense that he's spewing. I think you'll find it interesting. Men, remember that the more you resist and the more you stand on your convictions, the more pressure society will put on you to conform. And I admit, it's hard to resist, especially as a single man. I understand that completely. Every day that you succeed, however, is a day you remain in control. You remain in control of your own destiny. Don't forget that. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in a future video. Take care.